You only have one life to live, so get the most out of it. On Good Life, Great Life, join me, Brian Highfield, and my guests as we share success stories, habits, mindsets, and lessons learned by successful people. These lessons are not taught in schools, but are critical for getting ahead in life. Whether you want a successful business or career, optimal health, or a lifestyle that most people just dream of, Good Life, Great Life has you covered. After retiring from a successful corporate career in my 40s, I founded multi-million-dollar businesses in the sports and healthcare arenas. Now, I help everyday people maximize their lives and speak regularly at seminars, on podcasts, and radio shows to share principles on the topics of health, wealth, and happiness. Don't let a good life get in the way of a great life. Join me today on Good Life, Great Life. Well, welcome to another episode of Good Life, Great Life. And today we have with us JME Thomas. JME is the founder of the Motley Zoo Animal Rescue. Welcome to the program, JME.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So our audience wants to know a little bit about your background and how did you get to the point where you created an animal rescue center that's also a charity, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So give us a little bit of your background and how that all came about.
Sure. I've always loved animals, which I got from my mother, but oddly enough, I was never actually allowed to have dogs or cats when I was little. My dad pretended he was allergic. So yeah, it wasn't until I snuck a cat into my house when I was about 18 that that opened that door. But I think most rescuers fall into rescuing accidentally. I don't think most people set out to say, I'm going to do this. They see a need and it kind of falls in their lap. So, I took the traditional route. I went to college. I was going to be a pharmacist. I got sick though, and I couldn't finish school. But I always also like fashion design. So my goal was to combine fashion design with my love of animals. But along the way, I realized that the fashion design element was very expensive, and I was kind of making all these clothes to sell them to raise money, but instead I could just do the work of saving the animals. So through fostering, my first dog I adopted, and I discovered fostering, and that was what kind of introduced me to the idea that just by having a dog in my home, I'm changing the world for that animal. And that really changed my life amazingly. And so I was working with some foster organizations, but I kind of had this vision of what could be. And I knew I tried to help them, or I tried to suggest, maybe we could try this, maybe we could try that. But, they kind of didn't want to hear it. And so I was like, I just think that there's a different way we could do this. And so that's how Motley Zoo came to be, was this vision I had for a way that, more people and more pets could be connected, and it could be more fun and rewarding, and the animals wouldn't fall through the cracks.
Awesome. So as a passion of yours, and like you said, you got experience in that, and you had these ideas. No one was listening, so you went out and created your own business to go ahead and implement those ideas. How is Motley Zoo Animal Rescue? How is that different from most other animal rescue centers?
Well, I mean, you see those commercials on TV with Sarah McLachlan that make you want to cry. Yeah. And a lot of
we all love those, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, turn the channel. I can't stand it. We wanted to make it fun and empowering. And, we chose this rock and roll theme that we didn't even realize where it would go from picking it. It just was kind of a funny play on words for us. And it was very meaningful to describe the diverse group of people that we had working at Motley Zoo, and then the diverse group of animals and species that we intended to, help. So, it just kind of came together that this is what we should do. And so that aesthetic is really different. Our attitude is really different. And I often heard, this is how it is. This is how it is, when I wanted to change things or improve things. And I was like, I don't think that's how it has to be. So we've made improvements on, policies, processes, systems, how people kind of go through the foster system, the support they receive. We tried to make improvements on all the things that we felt like, just kind of came up short. So thankfully, we have really been able to do what we set out to do. And we're routinely told that we're very different than any other organization, kind of like us. So.
Awesome. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you set it up as a charity, so it is a 501c3 organization. And I guess I know a lot of people that are thinking about starting a nonprofit or starting a charitable organization. And so, how difficult or how easy was that process?
Well, it is pretty difficult at first to get a 501c3. It's, like a 100-page application. It's very, very time consuming. It can take a year or more to get your certificate. In the meantime, you're trying to operate a charity without being able to give people a tax deductible receipt. You can do retroactively if you get your 501c3 within that year. Anyone that donated that year, you can go give them a receipt. And we were lucky ours was accepted in like 6 months or whatever. But it is not easy. And we raised $1,500 from other people. And my husband and I put in the rest. We put in $1,000. And so we started with $2,500. Wow. And when you're talking about vetting bills for animals and things like that, we set a budget and we just said, this is how much we think we need per animal. And we only took as many animals as we had in the budget. But getting those donations that first, 6 months was very difficult because people want a tax deductible receipt. But, it is not for the faint of heart. It is a very rewarding process to found and work for a charity, but it is not easy. And I think a lot of people think, oh, you just get grants left and right. Well, first off, it depends on what sector you're working in. And then, no, grants are like 5% of your revenue. And, you have to have a very solid business plan and a business idea, a concept of how you're going to make it sustainable. And it involves a lot of you working for free, you putting in a lot of time and money of your own, in the meantime. So it is not something that just found it and the money will just fall in your lap. That's not true.
So is it like a traditional business? How is a charity different from the day-to-day operations? And I mean, we talked about the setup of it, but from any other business, is it really that different?
I don't think so, because you really do have to have that bottom line in mind when you are spending that money. I think the hard thing for a lot of people when doing so is because they're so passionate about the mission that they're working in, they tend to maybe overextend themselves or make emotional decisions that, you have to balance that. You have to be able to balance that. So, I see a lot of people who are rescuers losing their homes because they have, gone way, way too far into debt. And so, finding that balance is really, really critical. But in the end, it is a business. You should have a business plan. You should, have a strategy. And the great difference is that, yes, you can get people to give you their money for nothing. So you don't have to sell a product. You don't have to, whatever, but you still have to be profitable. And if you're not profitable, or at least breaking even, then, you have to be fundraising all the time. And that is very time consuming and can keep you from the actual mission that you're trying to, accomplish. So it is, you really should be a business person to want to do this and to be found a charity.
So like any other business, it's you gotta focus on growing your revenue to come in, but also as you said before, you kind of have a budget and you got to focus on your expenses or maybe reducing those expenses to stay afloat. So really it's just like any other business that a successful business at that point, right?
Yeah. The great thing too is that you can add volunteers instead of staff. So, but volunteers they're not going to always do what they say they're going to do. They're not going to always show up. And, so you have to have that backup plan that it's not like just paying someone with staff, as a staff person. But, I think you get people, you weed through a lot of people, but the gems that you find are really people that are super committed, and it doesn't take $1 to keep them involved.
Right. Awesome. What are some of the creative ways you found that work well as far as creating revenue to support your animal rescue?
So from day one, I envisioned a facility that would make money for the organization, not just, cost us money to have an office. So a day dog daycare and training center. It took us 5 years to, have it come to fruition. But we established the first of its kind that I've ever heard of in this whole country, dog daycare and training center as a year-round fundraising program. So it's essentially like running an entirely other business side by side with a charity, which most people can hardly run their charity. Running another business on top of it is very difficult. But we've been doing it for 8 years now, and we've been very, very successful. But even in, the animal welfare community, when we tell people what we do, they're shocked. They're like, what? How do you do that? I've never thought of that. Why? I don't know why no one had ever thought of it before, because it seems like the most obvious idea to me to do something relevant. But it was very unique when we founded it. It's still unique today, 8 years later. But that's probably one of the biggest ways that we've, tried to become sustainable. And then another way is through our merchandise sales. We have some really fun, cool branded apparel that we sell, which, thankfully that's kind of like a creative outlet from my fashion design days. I get to still put that creative, ideas out there. And but we sell that all over the world. So we have volunteers design the artwork. Volunteers print the shirts. And so literally like every penny beyond the cost of, the shirt and the ink, like can go to each animal. And we even market that uniquely, where every shirt has a specific animal that design is raising money for. So you can see directly which animal is being benefited from your purchase.
Oh, that's really cool. Right. Yeah, that's really neat. So you're kind of like almost like a one-stop shop. So I can go and rescue an animal, but also I can have it trained and take it to doggy daycare right there, all at the same place.
Exactly. Yeah. And I kind of knew it would be a really cool, like full circle kind of idea, but I had no idea how fulfilling it would be, not just sending these dogs off into the sunset and hope we would ever hear from them again, but seeing them grow up in front of us, making sure we have the ability to help intervene if there's a problem or anything like that. And, being that face in the community has really changed, what we're capable of, both financially, volunteer wise, and, for our sustainability. So it's made a huge impact.
It sounds like it. Now you've been very successful with this for many years, but what were some of the biggest challenges in the beginning of getting this off the ground?
Oh yeah. So the first year I felt like we did really well, and somehow we rescued 83 animals in the first year. I mean, I expected like 10 or 30 or something like that. But the second year was really hard. Everything kind of changed. A lot of the people, the board of 6 became just my husband and I. Like people, it's not what they thought it was going to be. And that year, it was literally my husband's involvement and the matching that his company does for his hours that kept us afloat that year. Then we met the current person who is our animal care director. Her name's Patty, and she has been integral into maintaining, I'm like the business and the mind and the drive, and she's like the animal guru. And, so she takes care of all of the vetting and all the strategy for each animal. And then I'm doing the business side. And so we're very complementary, but fundamentally, like the animals are, that's what we're here for. And it was super challenging at first. And the second year I was worried that maybe we wouldn't succeed. But once we got through that and Patty came on, it's the people that's going to really help you keep it going. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have the right people to help you, do the work, then, it's not going to succeed. And from there, it just kind of steamrolled and just kept going and going and going.
No, it's good. So in the first couple of years, I mean, do you really have doubts that this was going to work? Did you think about giving up at any point?
Yes, I did. And it wasn't because I wanted to, but I just realized, I knew this was going to be hard, but, when it comes right down to it, I'm the one in charge of everything. And it's my full-time job. You know, it was my husband's part-time hobby, and it was other people's part-time hobby, but it all came down to me. And that was a lonely place. And sometimes it still can be, you know, but most charities don't succeed more than 3 years. So, you know, to know that we were able to do that is a miracle in and of itself. And I always say every day a charity stays in business, it's a miracle. But yeah, I've had doubts over the years, and mostly because sometimes, you know, managing people or adopters can be really crazy, potential adopters. And people get really emotional about the animals. So sometimes it's the customer service part that really, really wears on you. I feel like we do a really great job of it, and we really, you know, strive to be great at it. But there are times when people just bring you down, and it's really never for me about the animals. When people talk about compassion fatigue in our industry, it's never the animal cases. It's when it gets hard with people. That's what has really been hard. So
yeah, people that are in the people business say the best thing is the people and the worst thing is the people. So
yeah, I joke that if it weren't for people, rescuing animals would be easy. And I say that with, a little bit of a facetiousness, because I love the people that we work with. And when you find gems, you're so grateful. But sometimes it's customer service nowadays, people don't even want to go to work because they're getting yelled at, and people are losing their minds out in the world. And so you think about that when people are fueled with, I want this dog, or I want this cat, like people lose their minds.
I can imagine. I remember, I used to coach high school volleyball, and I said, my next coaching gig is going to be at a orphanage. Because the parents get very, very emotional about their kids as they would their pets, and so I can just imagine what you have to deal with on a periodic basis there. Yeah. What advice would you give someone who's starting a charity? Now that you've been through it, you made it successful, and someone wants to start that up. What are some of the top tips you'd give to that person who wants to start their own 501c3?
Sure. Expect it's going to be a long and bumpy road, but that it'll be really rewarding. Even on the hardest days, I still, think to myself, I don't know what else I would want to be doing. There's nothing else I would want to be doing or that I would find so fulfilling as this. But you have to think about that too. I think also having a long-term strategy and an exit strategy of how you will build this and how you will make it sustainable without you, because that's how you get an organization that's going to live forever. So from day one, I've been trying to make myself obsolete in this system, so that the whole organization can run without me, because ultimately I think that's what most people want. Sometimes people don't want things to run without them, and they want to be the only one, and they want to be, the center of attention, and that's fine too. But you'll end up with two different results with those different kind of mindsets. And then self-care is very, very important, to stop and take time for yourself. Have 1 day off a week minimum, where, the phone might be ringing off the hook, but you just take that time for yourself, because it's a child that never takes a nap. it's 24/7. And, there's been plenty of times where I'm on my way to a wedding and I'm picking up a dog, or a funeral, and, or Christmas and someone got bitten, or, and you have to deal with these emergencies when everyone else is having fun, and you have to be prepared for that. But also take that time for yourself. So, I think it's not for the faint of heart. That is for sure. You have to be committed to your mission, and you have to have a thick skin. And, but you will be amazingly rewarded. It is life altering to be able to do something that really satisfies your passion and your purpose, and that really affects and changes the world.
Awesome. And I love that. And really, that's great advice for starting any business, let alone a charity. in that, because you are the person on the hook for your own business, and there's no boss to answer to, but which is good, but you're the boss, and nothing gets done if you're not doing it, especially in the beginning there. So that's awesome advice. What is next for Motley Zoo? What are your plans for the future? Where is it going to be 5 years from now?
Yeah. So, we're going to keep going with our dog daycare facility and training as long as we can do that. We're in a city where there's a lot of development and prices are, kind of crazy out of control. Thankfully, we have a pretty solid situation, at least for a few years, but we do look forward to establishing a sanctuary, which would be a place where animals that can't get adopted, can live out their lives. So, right now we take in 30% of the animals that we take in are medical cases, but we have expectations that they will get adopted, even if it takes a year or more. But these would be animals that we know people are not going to adopt because their conditions may be, they're too sad or they're too much work or whatever. And then also being able to expand our species to other animals besides dogs, cats, and small animals. So this would, kind of, it would be bigger than a shelter in the sense that it's not just kennels and animals living there. It would be bigger than our foster system where all those animals are expected to be adopted. It would be the one piece of the puzzle that we currently don't have, which is, those animals in great need that have can have a quality of life if we can provide that. So
Awesome.
that's our next thing. And I'm not sure when that'll happen, but otherwise, we're still working on expanding our training program. And, we really want to share what we're doing with other organizations too. So we're trying to create a program that's able to be replicated in other places.
Now, do the dogs actually participate in the training, or is it more training for the owners? Because I found when I train dogs, I was the one being trained, not necessarily the dog.
Yes, this is true. But with the facility, we do both. We do a day training program where the owners aren't there. And then we give them homework and they have to do the homework. Yeah. And if they don't do the homework, then yes. But we also do group classes where the owners are there. And it is about training the people, because dogs will learn whatever you teach them or don't. And, it's just about what you reinforce, and teaching people how to reinforce the proper behaviors, the proper responses. That is hard. And, some people, they will be in training forever because they don't listen. So, their dogs are great and we can get them to do anything. But at home, if they don't listen to what we're trying to tell them, then their dogs will be in training forever.
For sure. So how can our audience learn more about Motley Zoo or get in touch with you?
Yeah, so our website is motleyzoo.org. And there's a lot of information on there about adopting, fostering, volunteering. And this is stuff that you can apply to, even organizations in your local area. Especially, I think one thing that people don't know is the difference between a rescue and a shelter when they're seeking a pet. And they cannot function the same, and they serve very different purposes for you and the animal. So there's a lot of information on how to pick which way you want to go about getting an adopted pet. And then obviously there's ways to donate there. And our store, you can link to our store, which is MZ behind the seams with a MZ at the end.com. And that merchandise all goes to support our mission. But you can get there all from motleyzoo.org. And of course our socials there too. So we're on every channel.
Awesome. Great. Well, great. Our guest today has been JME Thomas. She's the founder of Motley Zoo Animal Rescue. So thank you for being with us today, JME.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been really fun. And I look forward to seeing how people respond and, hearing from other people that may be interested in doing a charity or doing a social enterprise. And I think that'll be really beneficial to them.
Absolutely. And so for our audience, I hope you join us next time when we'll talk about another topic related to creating your good life and turning that into a great life. So thank you again, JME.
Thanks.